Hello there. How are you? Welcome back to Breakfast All Day. So you have been warned. We are now going to delve deep into the acid vat of Joker spoilers for you. So hopefully you have already seen the movie. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, if not, we have warned you. Joker spoilers.
Do we have the blah, blah anymore?
Anyway, so first off, just when you thought you were going to get to see a movie in the Batman universe without the dreaded moment in front of the theater where Bruce watches his parents get killed with the pearls falling in slow motion on the sidewalk. Well, you'd be wrong because we see that.
However, instead of going to see Zorro like they did in the 30s, now they're seeing Zorro the Gay Blade because it's 1981.
So here's another
that was
question.
The one. I thought that was clever.
Here's a question I have for you. And I know that Matt was saying in our normal conversation about this that Joker is a man out of time, and there's different versions of Joker and not necessarily one origin story. Okay, so here, Joker's a grown-ass man, right? Like Joaquin Phoenix is 40, right? And Bruce Wayne is like a little boy. He's like 8. So does that mean that like in the Heath Ledger, Christian Bale timeline that like this now negates that?
Well,
I don't know.
This is like Gotham Syndrome, that TV show where like Bruce is a tween and then like but Oswald Cobblepot and all these other sort of future rogues gallery people are much older than him.
Right, but Batboy isn't that scary.
Right, exactly.
Right. I mean, the Inquirer.
You have Lil Selena Kyle and Lil Poison Ivy, so they're at least all about the same age. But there's these other dudes who are much older. I think what this, what I was saying before about how there have been different Joker origins and it's been presented differently.
That's
me. Is that thank you. No, I keep shorting. It's so weird. Anyway, we have a lot of unreliable narrators here. We can't rely on Arthur. We can't rely on Arthur's mother to be telling the truth, so we don't know. Is Arthur Fleck Thomas Wayne's son?
I mean, when you see him looking at the folder in the hallway of the Arkham Asylum, he sees her folder says he's delusional and he's adopted, right?
Yes, but at the same time, like Thomas Wayne is rich and powerful and could have changed. Like I think the movie gives itself a lot of outs. Like I don't think he necessarily is, but if they wanted to come back later and say that he was and that Wayne manipulated the paperwork and blah blah blah, that's perfectly a possibility. So who's to say if any of how much? And given the big twist regarding Zazie Beetz, where we think they're having a relationship and then we find out that it's all in his head, how much of this movie is in his head? If that
that's Matt's theory.
So a couple things. First of all, the only good part about the scene where Bruce's parents get killed is that when he's standing there in the alley by himself, you see in the background super rats. Watch that scene closely. You see giant.
I didn't see this.
I didn't notice
walking
that.
around.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. It's Chekhov's super rat. You don't announce super rats in the first act and not show and not use super rats at the end. So at the very end of the film, we see Arthur Fleck, who I have to be convinced that he's related to Stacy Fleck.
Who's that?
Or not Stacy. Who's the...
Tracy Flick.
Tracy Flick.
That's Tracy Flick.
Oh,
Flick,
I thought it was
not
Flick.
Fleck. No.
That was a reach.
I thought it was Fleck. Anyway, no, Stacy Fleck is her cousin.
You look like you could use a cupcake.
Yeah. So we see we see Arthur Fleck in the same room that we get a very brief version of early on in the film because he's talking to his social worker. He says something about being in the hospital, and you see him bang his head against the window in a tiled room that matches the room that he's in at the end of the film. And I think he's made the whole story up in his head. I think Arthur Fleck is not actually the Joker. I think that he's been in the asylum this is probably a reach, but he's been in the asylum long enough to at least have heard about the Joker. And he's made up this story that he is the Joker. And he ends up then killing the social worker or the person who's talking to him. And then he runs out of that room and you see the blood on his footsteps as he runs out. And then they catch him. But I think the whole thing, because he's an unreliable narrator, he's made the whole thing up.
So if he's not the Joker, then who is?
We don't know.
Is there a Batman?
Yes. But I think that the movie, that ending makes us question whether or not he's actually the Joker at all, because we don't see the permanent grin. Right. We don't see the skin color. Like, oh, he's explained that all the way. Like, it goes in such a different direction from what everything we know that it's like, oh, this is what this guy thinks would make the Joker. I think that it gives us enough of an out to question that.
And this guy has clearly watched Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy.
Exactly. Right. And he's probably been in there since the 80s, and those are his references.
Right.
And then something comes up about this Joker character, and that's how he makes it up. I think that we're meant to think that, so that when another Batman movie comes out with another Joker, we're not tied into a specific cinematic universe.
Which plays into your theory, Alonzo, that like there is, every Joker is different.
Yeah. There's no one story that ever sticks. I did want to mention real quick we had talked about before the moment where he goes on Robert De Niro's talk show.
Oh, I had that scene spoiled for me.
What, did he shoots him in the head?
Yeah.
Wait, how?
Because there was somebody had snuck out a clip of, I assume was Venice. Like somebody was shooting something at Venice, and it was like showing some scene on the talk show, and like an idiot, I watched it.
Oh, never look at that.
That's on you, dude.
But that scene is
right out of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, where the Joker goes on the David Endocrine show.
Right.
And down to having a Dr. Ruth style sex expert sitting on the other side of him. Like, they clearly were using that scene in the comics as a basis for this thing, but
and it also pulls from the Red Hood in that, like, oh, he was a failed stand-up, and, right, and it pulls from The Killing Joke because he mentions like, oh, I'm just like The Killing Joke is like, oh, it's one bad day, right? And he says a couple times like, it's been a bad day.
I thought there was Richard Brody in The New Yorker had an interesting read on the violence in the film where he talks about how the part at the beginning where the kids steal a sign and then beat him in the alley is clearly meant to mirror the Central Park Five.
Oh, really?
Well, that was Brody's read on it. And of course, Central Park Five didn't do anything and have been are now the exonerated five. But but in this movie's mythos, no, this is the kind of thing that happens in New York City. And then later, when he shoots those guys on the subway,
it's Bernard Getz.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about the scene in the subway where these random Wall Street assholes send in the clowns.
Yes, they
like
are
the second verse.
fanatics.
The second verse too. They keep going.
That was a big hit at that time, though. That got a lot of airplay.
That took me out of it.
I went with it just because I had just seen Marriage Story, where two different people sing a song from Company. So I was like, okay, we all know Sondheim now. It's fine. But yeah, it is that thing where like he commits this act of brutality, but we're also supposed to empathize with him because he's being abused by these assholes.
It's problematic.
And it's it's that thing of like, well, so Wall Street guys are assholes, and this is the proletariat rising against them, and that's awesome. But then at the same time, this is also about the poor victimized white guy and how he can't get ahead in this world. And again, like I said before, I think this movie is saying everything and ultimately not saying anything.
Yes, it is ultimately quite empty, and I felt nothing coming out of it.
It wants all the cakes and to eat them too.
Even though they're contradictory cakes.
Yeah. The other thing too is that the movie, going into the talk show scene, it very much sets up like, oh, he's going to kill himself, right? Like
he's playing with the gun with his chin,
and he acts out like how he's going to do it all. And then, Phoenix does a good job of showing you where he changes his mind during the show, during the discussion he's having with what's the
De Niro's character.
De Niro's character,
Joe Franklin,
right? He has that. He changes his mind and then shoots him. But I think that the whole idea that he's going on that show to kill himself somewhat takes away from at least what Miller was doing with that scene, and so it takes an element of that scene that in the comic Miller lays the groundwork for, and it fits in with the way he's presenting the Joker. And this one, it's like, oh well, I think it shows the writer's misunderstanding of like, oh, that's a good shocking moment, let's do that, and it's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't. I don't think that really works with what he's doing.
Because now it's about, he's being driven to it by these terrible people.
Right.
They're making fun of him.
And the other thing that they do is I think that they set up that laughing issue that he has is, similar to a kind of Tourette's, the way it's presented. And the movie, by the end of the movie, as he's off his medication, the laugh's not there anymore. And the laugh is his real laugh. Like, now he actually thinks it's funny. And so it makes me think, like, all right, so is the laughing a side effect of the medication? Is that it's really, because he seems to be more together as he's off his meds, together in that he's, as much as he may be now psychotic, he's sharper and he's got more going on than he might have had previously. But then the element of the laugh doesn't fit in with what, like, the classic Joker would, or not even classic. Like, it stops making sense.
I do want to say, though, you reminded me of the lead up to the talk show. The scene on the street is like it's one of the posters now, where he's dancing in that suit.
Right.
Is an amazing moment.
Right. That's a great,
and like that's a moment that we're gonna, I think, look back on as much as this movie gives me Spilkus and I think doesn't work. Like, there are these individual moments like that where, like, it's just stunning.
And I
It
think
is
that
cinema. It is like pure motion and movement.
I think that the scene in the subway where the two cops are trying to chase him down.
Oh, and he puts the other clown
with all
mask
the other
on.
clown masks in, and he starts the fight, and, like, the whole riot starts in the subway. Like, that's a great bit. I think that's a great, really tense, really powerful scene. Like, there's a lot of really, and one of the things that both the music does, and because we know what Phoenix is capable of, partly because the movie relies on the history of the Joker character, and partly because Phoenix can be such an explosive actor. There are moments where he's walking around, even in his own apartment building, where you think, oh, is he going to murder Zazie Beetz and her kid? Like,
is he going to snap?
Like, he could snap at any moment, and the movie, rightly so, has to rely on our knowledge of the Joker to lead us in that direction. But then all the other stuff it does with the mythos of the Joker, I think, takes away with that. And I think the movie kind of wants it both ways. Like, it wants us to take some of our knowledge to ramp up our tension, but then it wants to mess with it whenever it wants and not deliver or not be true to what the character's kind of capability is. And so I think that that's where some of the writing and the plot and the script lets it all down. Like, and when I talk about the script, like, I think the dialogue's good. I think there's plenty of good dialogue in this. It's not that it's hackneyed dialogue. It's more the plot and where it's trying to go.
The ideas behind it.
And the ideas behind it, I think, are where the mess is.
And his performance really is truly the main thing that's worth seeing here, because he does go to really disturbing places and really unpredictable places. And so you are sort of on edge, like, as Matt was saying, like, oh God, what's going to happen next? If we're listing individual sequences that are good, one more just occurred to me. When those kids are chasing him through the street, like, that is kinetic, that is thrilling, because they're in the midst of traffic and there's like a long tracking shot that follows them along the sidewalk sideways. Anyway, continue.
And they do a good job of recapturing that sort of, like, I think in my review of the Wrap, I said they turned Gotham City into Fun City, like that horrible 1970s New York, just like the
pre-Giuliani New York.
Yeah, and so,
with
like,
the garbage strike.
And I love I always love when a movie like that will use the old Warner Brothers logo, the three worms, as they call it, that Saul Baster designed. But the other thing that we talked about, and the other one that we didn't want to give away, was the reveal in this film that is then undone by the explanation of the reveal. Oh. So the movie has led us to believe that he and Zazie Beetz have kind of begun this relationship after they've, she's a neighbor, they've met in the elevator, and there's a scene where he's sitting in her apartment and she comes out and she's horrified that he's there, and, like, it's clear that she doesn't really know him.
She asks his name.
Yeah, like, she has some vague idea that he's the guy. He's in the building.
It's the Fight Club ripoff.
Exactly, and it's like, and it's this moment like, okay, and I think just about anybody will put that together in their head. But Todd Phillips does not believe that you, the moviegoer, are capable of this, because then he has to show you all these scenes where we thought they were together, but he was by himself and just having a delusion, and it's like, come on.
Yeah,
Todd.
That was very frustrating for me.
That takes away from my theory that it's all in his head, because if Todd Phillips had meant that, then he would have spoon-fed it to us.
Oh,
true.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Maybe I'm giving him more than he's actually.
That's true.
done.
You're right. Yeah, well, I think we're giving him too much credit. Maybe anyway.
Well, we'll be curious to hear what you guys think when you see it. If you liked it, it is very divisive, and Hopefully there will be no ridiculous violence at theaters this weekend.
There's already been one screening that I think was interrupted because of a credible threat.
In Huntington Beach, they had to shut down a showing on Thursday night, I want to say. So there's at least that one. But hopefully this will not happen because it's just ridiculous and stupid and not worth it. So
One would hope.
yes. So
Yeah, don't do anything stupid. Don't.
Just, yeah. Everybody be cool.
that's our advice to you.
Right. I was going to say, don't do anything stupid like see this movie, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
No, I mean, even though I didn't like it, I do think it's worth seeing from a cultural perspective and for the performance.
It is a thing we're talking about, and it is. Yeah, it would be easier to dismiss this movie if it were mere hackery, but it's not. There's something going on.
There's a lot going on in here.
Yeah. Anyway.
So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. On Monday, I'm going to have an interview with my girlfriend, Jamie Lynn Littman, who is a filmmaker. She's an actress turned filmmaker. Her first big on-screen credit period was in Boogie Nights.
Well,
She was 19 years old. She'd moved to Hollywood to be an actress, and she was in Boogie Nights. Matt, you've actually met her, Matt, because she did a Wind the Flick with me when we did one on The Disaster Artist. She came with me to go see that. So that's on Monday. But thank you all for hanging out with us. As Alonzo is fond of saying, follow us in all the places, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We are at BeFastAllDay. We have a Patreon that we'd love for you to join and listen and watch us talk about trailers and movie news and television recaps of On Becoming a God in Central Florida.
And Watchmen.
coming soon.
We're going to do
soon when that
Watchmen,
starts.
and we've got another poll for you guys to vote in of horror movies for us to review later on this month because it is October. Can you guys see the pumpkin? Is a pumpkin visible in our thing? Baby pumpkin! It's Halloween. So anything else you guys want to add?
You should name it David.
David S.
Pumpkin.
David S. David S.
If you're watching this on YouTube, like us and subscribe, please.
Yes.
All of that. Thanks, guys. And thanks to both of you.
Thank you
For hanging
Thanks
out
for
with me.
hosting us in your lovely home.
Thank you. Bye.